Hi there. We're going to talk a little bit about the review for Test 13. Test 13 is coming up this next week, and one of the things that I like to do is to have a chance to kind of look over the problems and get a chance to talk to students about how to study for that test. This is a review test. It is not the actual test, so don't think that you're going to be able to write the problems down and go to class and whoop, there it is. It's not going to be there. Okay, so I want to give you mostly methodology, mostly how to do the problems, and then I will give you the answer, and then what you need to do is work through the work and then go to the answer and see if you can come up with that answer. Okay? So, total purchase price of a $20,000 van plus 8.5% sales tax. First of all, one of the things you have to pay attention to is they want the total price. Well, the total price includes the price of the van, which is that $20,000, plus 8.5% of that $20,000 added together will give you the total price of the van. Okay? So, methodology, in other words, the method to do this would be you need to turn that 8.5% into a decimal that you can actually multiply with. And to do that, typically what we do, and we've done this in class before, and I'll show you right now, is we're going to move that decimal place 2 places to the left, okay? Which is going to change it into 0.085. And so you would be taking 20,000 times, okay, 20,000 times 0.085. That will give you the tax. Okay? And then you need to add the price of the van, which is the 20,000. And the two of them added together will give you the total. Now, it happens to be that when you take 20,000 times 0.085, that you get $1,700. Okay? And if you add that to the 20,000, you would get $21,700. Okay? So, that is important that you know how to do that and how to change the percent into a decimal. Number 2 on this review is a pretty simple one that you probably need to know if you're ever going to get a job. Pam worked 12 hours and she earned $78. How much did she earn per hour? Well, this is a division kind of a problem, okay? And you want to take your $78 and you have to make sure you leave the decimals in it, okay? And you want to divide that by 12, okay? Whichever way works the best for you, you can think of it this way if you want to, okay? Okay, so when you do the division, you want to make sure that you keep track of that decimal place right there, okay? And 12 goes into 78. Well, it doesn't go in evenly, but it does go in 6 times. And that'll give you 72 with 6 left over. Bring down that 0. And 12 goes into 60 5 times. And of course you add that 0 on because you want a dollar amount, and that ends up to be $6.50 an hour. Okay, number 3. The ratio of girls to boys in the gym was 5:3. If there were 160 students in the gym, how many girls were there? This is a problem that I would probably set up a ratio box for, just simply because it would probably be the easiest way to approach it. Okay? And what you have is girls, boys, and of course total. So you have girls, boys, and then you have total. The ratio they give us is 5:3, and of course to get the total you add those, that's 8. And then you are given the total number of students in the gym, so that's got to go down here. And they're looking for the girls, so this is your variable right there, that's what you're looking for. Once you have that all set up, you really don't need the middle part at all. I mean, you're not going to probably even use this now. You're just simply going to use these 4, and it would end up to be 5/8 equals g over 160. And you would, of course, cross multiply to solve. And when you get done cross multiplying to solve, you are going to find out that there are 100 girls. Okay? So the answer is 100. Number 4. It asks you to find the average of 4, 2 3/4, and 3. Okay? Well, the average of any number is you need to add all the numbers together and divide it by the total number of numbers. So you have 4 and 3, those are both just integers, and then you have 2 3/4, which is a fraction, mixed number. So I think what I'd do is since I'm just adding them together to start with, I would move them around. So I would say 4 plus 3 plus 2 3/4. 4 and 3 makes 7 plus 2 3/4. Ends up to be 9 3/4. Now you want to divide that by 3 because there are 3 numbers. To divide, you've got to turn them into an improper. 9 times 4 is 36 plus 3 is 39 over 4. And you're going to divide that by 3, okay, over 1. And remember with division we keep switch and flip. So we keep the first number, 39 over 4. We move the middle to multiplication rather than division, and we flip the last. And we end up with 1/3 there. We are going to cross reduce. 3 goes into 3 once. 3 goes into 39 13 times. So we end up with 13 over 4. 4 goes into 13. 4 goes into 13 3 times with a remainder of 1/4. Answer, 3 1/4 is the average. Okay. Next problem, and I know I'm speeding along, but this is the idea so that you can go in and work these yourself. Okay, the next one says, what is 35% of 120? Well, there's 2 ways to do this, and I'm not going to labor this one too much, but what number, WN, means equal, okay? 35% of means multiply 120. I'm going to change this again. What number equals, I'm going to change 35% into a decimal, 0.35, times 120. Now, if you go ahead and do the math on this one, the answer is 42. Okay, if we do the math. Now, there's another way to set this up, which might be nicer for you. I don't know, it depends on you. 35% can be written as 35 over 100. And that is equal to whatever number is 35% of 100, that's your variable. And then we have 120 right there. Cross multiply. And you will still get 42. Either way works. Okay, next one has to do with a young man who gave away his baseball cards. Okay, it says diagram this statement. Then answer the questions that follow. Bobby gave 1/5 of his 235 baseball cards to his little sister. What percent of Bobby's baseball cards were given to his sister, and how many cards did he have left? Okay, it talks about diagramming it, so I'm going to diagram it because it does kind of make it easier, at least makes it go faster. If you're talking about 1/5, then your model is going to be divided into 5 parts. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you always want to think about, if I was going to take all these baseball cards and I was going to divide them up into 5 equal parts, how many would go into each one of those little slots? And as it turns out, if you take 235 divided by 5, you get 47. So you're going to end up with 47 cards in each of these little slots. Okay? Now I think we can answer some questions. What percent of Bobby's baseball cards were given to his sister? Well, it says 1/5. But we know that 1/5 is what as a percent? If you don't know, you could take 1 divided by 5, Or you could go, 1/5. If I take that times 20, and I take the top times 20, that gives me a number over 100. And that's what I'm looking for to find the percent. And voila, we have 20%. So 20% of his cards were given to his little sister. How many does he have left? Well, two ways to do this. You could take 47 and multiply it times 4, and that would give you 188, which is the correct number. Or you could take 235, which is the total number of cards, and subtract 47, and guess what? You're still going to get 188 cards left over. Okay, the next one has to do with scientific notation. And we know quite a bit about scientific notation. We've talked about it a lot in class. But we know that there's two types of scientific notation. There's the type that has a negative exponent and type has a positive exponent. And one is expressing a very, very small number, and the other one's expressing a very, very large number. In this case, we're looking at a pretty small number. Okay? Now, with scientific notation, you have to have one significant number to the left of the decimal, and then it's multiplied times a power of 10. Okay? So when we look through this number, the first significant number is the 7. Those zeros are not significant. They won't do us any good in front of that decimal. So we're going to write 7.0 times 10 to the, now we have to look at it. If I want to go from here to there, I have to go in a left way. I have to go left, which is a negative direction. So how far do I have to go to the left is what I need to find out. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left, which means that it's going to be 7.0 times 10 to the negative 6. So that is scientific notation. Remember that you must only have one number to the left of the decimal. Okay, now we are going to write a number in standard form from scientific notation. So we look, the number here is 3.2 times 10 to the negative 3. So what I usually do is I write 3, 2 like this. Now I know that point is right there. I know it's there, I'm just not putting it in. I'm going to start counting from there though. It is 10 to the negative 3, which means that we're going to have to go to the left rather than the right. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, put in my new decimal, put in my zeros. Now I don't have to worry about this right here, it's gone. And my answer is 0.0032, which is 32 millionths. Okay, so I put 0.0032 in the answer sheet. Okay, next one. Now, when we think about number 8 here, it's finding the measure of an angle in a parallelogram. Remember that parallelograms are simply two sets of parallel lines that are intersected in a corner. So I'm going to extend the corners of this, okay, like that. And I'm going to extend the corners of this like that. And then I would do the same thing here and here and here and here. Now what I'm looking at is two sets of parallel lines and two transversals that are already parallel. Okay? These are already labeled. We have W, X, Y, and Z. It gives us angle Z. Angle Z is right here. Tells us that angle Z is 60 degrees. Okay? Now, we know that inside of a parallelogram there are 360 degrees, right? Or excuse me, 360 degrees. Sorry about that. And we know that there's probably going to be two sets of angles that have the same measure. So if there's one set of 60 here, then there's probably a 60 over here, right? And the problem is to find out what that other angle is. Well, there's two ways to do that. This is a straight line. And if we know that this part of this straight line is 60, and a straight line is 180 degrees, then we are going to know that this is 120 degrees. So if that's 120, pretty good chance that its friend over here, the alternate interior angle, is also 120. And if it's 120, then this one over here is 2, because of the fact that we have matching here and here has to be the same measure. And also, if we take 60 and 60, we get 120. I'm adding wrong here. Okay. Sorry about that. Let's see. 4 times in 360. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 360. Sorry about that. Okay. 160 and 60 and 120 is 180. And then 120 and 60 is also 180. And 60 is 60 here. And this is 120. And this is 120. And this would be 60. And if this is 120, that's 120. If this is 60, that's 60. Kind of a cool thing to go through and label all of those. But the missing angle is 120 degrees. Okay. Number 9, we are comparing 7.3 liters and 7,300 milliliters. Okay. Now, the thing that we need to do here is probably just turn one into the other to see how they compare. Remember the King Henry died unexpectedly drinking chocolate milk. Okay, so we need to go from 7.3 liters to milliliters. Here's our liters. Okay, we're going to milliliters, so we're going to go 1, 2, 3 to the right, which means we're actually moving a decimal to the right. So we'll rewrite our 7.3 here, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3 to the right, put in our zeros, take out the old decimal place, and guess what? It shows that we're equal. It shows that we're equal. So we would write equal over here. All right, the last one on this side of the test review is 10 divided by 6. They want you to write the answer rounded up to the nearest whole number. 10 divided by 6. Okay, so you want to move up your decimal. 6 goes into 10 one time. Subtract 4. You got another 0 coming down here, and you put a 0. 6 goes into 4 6 times. 36. Look at that, you have 4 again. So it doesn't take very long to see that there's a pattern on this one. And if you were to write this as a decimal, it would be 1.6 repeating. But they want it rounded to the nearest whole number. So to round that to the nearest whole number, you look at it. Is this 5 or more? Yes, it is. So you would round it up, which means that that one's going to go to a 2. And that's approximate there. So number 10, the answer is 2. Okay, I'm going to stop right there so that I can record the other half of the review separately so that it isn't too long, and those of you who have already seen the first half of the review won't have to repeat. Okay? Thanks, and have a great day.